Is it possible for the root and home partitions to have different file systems and to be located on separate physical devices? Imagine I formatted the root with an extension 3 file system on a separate partition that happens to exist on a SATA HDD and the home directory on a different BTRFS partition that happens to exist on an Intel SSD. I downloaded a file from the internet and temporarily saved it to /tmp in the root file system, then I decided to move it to my home directory, the second partition. I can feel the painful process that happens in the background to make such a simple MV command work. So, first, is it possible for the root and home to have different file systems? Secondly, assuming the answer for the previous question was yes, how does the OS manages all that transition from extension 3 to BTRFS and then using different device drivers for different disk types, HDD and SSD?
The answer is yes, you can have any directory on any device, running any file system the OS can support. So you can have //var, home opt, and even home /0ck on different devices, different partitions, different file systems. Not only can you, but it is common. For example, it is always recommended to keep var and home on different partitions as these are most likely to inadvertently consume disk space. If they fill up, it doesn't impact the system too much. If they are on the same partition as root, it can cause the system to stop. And you may want different directories to run on different devices for speed reasons, and use different file systems for different purposes. For example, perhaps extension 4 is what you want for the OS files, as they don't change much, but you might want BTRFS for home so you can keep snapshots for backups. These are all decisions that can be made by each person for their specific use case. The user space part of the OS doesn't need to understand the different device and file system types. All it does is ask the kernel to move a file, and the kernel orchestrates everything from there. So the MV command, for example, is file system and device type agnostic. The kernel invokes whatever drivers are needed to read and write to the different partitions.
Yes, separate file systems, mount points, can be different file system types. /proc is always a procs file system, and /sys is always a sysfs. Transient file systems, sometimes including /tmp, are often tmpfs. And, in workgroup settings, it's common for the user's home directories and their work product directories to be NFS or other remote, network/shared file system types. There isn't any special management for the OS to do. Up to a point, at the user level, all file systems look alike, in the sense that an ls listing will look pretty much the same in any directory. Beyond that point, file systems don't interact. Even between two file systems, partitions, or on the same physical disk of the same file system type, there's no linkage one. For example, moving a file from one file system, mount point, to another always involves making a copy and deleting the original. Doesn't matter if they are partitions on different disks. Doesn't matter if one of them is HDD and one is SSD. Doesn't matter if one is ext3 and one is BTRFS. Doesn't matter if one is internal, inside the computer case, and one is external, a few inches outside, connected by a cable, or remote, accessed over the network. Speaking of the network, it's a little analogous to SSH. It reads from the keyboard and sends the characters you type to the network simultaneously. It reads from the network and displays the results on the screen. Or consider this, imagine you're on the phone and you're mediating a conversation between the person on the other phone and another person in the room. It's no big deal. _______________________________________________ One except for symbolic links, but they can cross file system boundaries.
If you want to change the and